Hey everyone, welcome to the Let Loose podcast, the podcast dedicated to all things Gym Leader Challenge and the Pokemon TCG. I am your host, Jeff Beisch, and today we are joined by someone that I am super excited to meet and talk to for the first time. Someone who's been kind of ever present in the online scene, but Pelet, you're in and out as you come. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. Our co-host Pelet here. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been watching the episode since the very beginning, so I'm excited to be here. I don't know if I can provide good info or just a good conversation, but I'll try.
Oh yeah, love having you on, dude. It's gonna be great. I can tell already. But it's good to have you on. People know you, from here and there. A couple different things that we'll get into today. But Pelet, talk to us, man. How long you've been playing GLC? What's your favorite Pokemon? All those things. Tell us all we need to know about Pelet before we get into our nitty gritty talk today.
Yeah, of course. So for those of you who don't know me, again, I'm not famous or anything at all, so I'm not surprised. So I started playing, I think it was 2022? I think at the beginning of 2022. So I think it was just about when they just had banned Kyogre, or they were about to. But we got into it. It was we've been looking to play a cool format for a while. We tried playing expanded, but it was just too fast paced, too broken for us, at least for our liking. Also very expensive. A lot of us in our team, Team Mumo Milk here in Puerto Rico, we're dads, right? So we have our own family, so it's hard to keep up with the prices sometimes, and a lot of us, we are barely starting to work. So we wanted to not only play a format that was very low budget, but we also wanted to play a format that we could play our favorite Pokemon without, without trying too hard to make it work. And I think when we found GLC, which, to tell you the truth, I don't even know how we did, but it was exactly what we wanted. We also, when we got into it, we still have the app. Well, I don't know the name of the app right now, but it was before the new one.
Was it PTCGO?
Yeah, so we played GLC there, and all the cards were really easy to get, and we had a lot of fun playing amongst us, basically. But then when we saw potential for it together, then that's when we all really got really into it. And then we started to. There was, by that time, a lot of gyms were still sort of newish, I kind of want to say. Every single gym had like their own specific ideal deck on what to play. So we wanted to build our own, and we've been playing TCG for a long time. So I think we had enough under our belt to grab all the Pokemon cards and say, I think there's still a lot of hidden potential. I think we're very new to the format, so I think we can actually make something that no one has seen, and make it our own, and I guess put a little mark into the community and help the community in a way, right? Because a lot of newer players come into the format, and if they're lucky enough to actually find all the tools, like the actual Gym Leader Challenge website, and go into it and be able to not net deck, but in a way, right, and maybe splash their own things, then they'll have an easier time. But if you don't have that, then it is going to be a little difficult to get into the format. So we wanted to bring something new that people could take and have it as their own tools, and not only what at that time, right, was on the site, which again, it was still amazing, right? Because we still have a lot of. That's how we started. We started looking at the Mahone videos on YouTube, and we started going into the website, and there was still so much unexplored that we really got into it, and yeah, we've been having lots of fun since then.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like you and I have been probably playing for about the same time because I came in just as Kyogre was getting banned too. I actually never had a chance to play against Kyogre, fortunately. I think that was just right after Silver Tempest was released, or maybe right before. I can't remember. The Archeops era. But yes. Right. But yeah, super awesome to have you here, man. And we got some cool things to talk about today. And again, people know you. I think you're GLC famous. I know you mentioned you weren't GLC famous, but people throw your name out all the time. I'm definitely one who likes to throw your name out here and there, especially when it comes to kind of some certain builds that we think of. So today, we got a couple things to talk about. We're going to talk about the current meta because, you're in Puerto Rico right now. And so it's going to be interesting to kind of compare kind of the two different things that we're doing. We're going to talk kind of the badge system, what it's been like, maybe some potentials for it. We're going to talk your deck, which we'll lead to later. And then some kind of monotype decks is what we're going to get into today. So that's kind of the vibe. The current meta, man. What do you think about the current meta currently, Pelet? What are the top decks in your opinion?
So this is... okay, so... before we talk about the current meta, I think we have to talk about the current formats, right? So I think what Mahone is doing, where you are taking all these decks, and in order for you to win the entire series, you have to win with multiple decks. I think that's the key of the format, because even if you have one deck that might be the strongest deck, right? Whether obviously that's going to be a little subjective. At least in GLC, I know in standard, it's more objective because you see results. But here in GLC, I think we still don't have enough. We have a lot of people playing the deck, the formats, but we still don't have enough to make it objective. It's still a subjective idea of what the best deck is. But even if there was a 100% sure this is the best deck, I think the idea that you have to win with different decks throughout a season just makes it so that it's balanced, right? So even if, let's say, Snorlax, right? And I'm not saying it is the best deck, but let's say, for example, that Colorless is the best deck right now. Yeah, you can win. Maybe, you won that week, but you still have other, depending on how your season is, you still have 7 other badges to win. So I think that makes it a lot balanced. So we started playing here in Puerto Rico. We started playing. We didn't do that. So we just had, every Thursday we had tournaments, and we had players that only had colorless, and they came in and they dominated every single week. And it kind of got I don't want to say boring, but annoying, right? Because they come in every single week, and it's just hard, especially. We played the most in the Archeops and the Archeops Lab era, so it was very annoying to deal with. But if you are doing it like they're doing it in full group games, I think it's the best way to balance the format, because you can't really complain, in my opinion, right? That's my opinion.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, because it does balance the format to a certain degree, right? Because you are eventually going to force some players to play some lesser decks. We're seeing that with the full group game series right now, where there's I think Mahone has 3 badges left, Ben Morse has 2 badges left, and they're the types that no one really wants to play. I think Ben has to get maybe Fighting and Fire, which most people consider to be kind of the bottom of the barrel when it comes to types. Right. But the good players are still winning. If you look at the full grip games board, it's those 3 guys have tons of badges, and then there's a couple of spatterings of 4s and 5s. So it helps with type diversity of 100%. You're not getting dominated by one deck, but good players are still going to find ways to win with bad decks. And I think that's what kind of the current system is showing us, is above all else, be a good player and you're going to get results. So when it comes to what are the top decks, best pilots is obviously where you have to look to first. I will say,
agree.
And I'm someone I love certain decks. Not every Gym Leader Challenge deck is for me either. So the badge system puts me kind of in like an awkward position at times where I'm playing something that I don't really enjoy. Again, I'm going to point to a gentleman at Full Grip Games who's been on his water grind for the last couple of weeks. And if you've been following that in the Tricky Gym Discord, you guys all know who I'm talking about. But playing a deck that you don't enjoy, it's not fun, obviously, at times. It's a grind. And so if you're grinding out badges, kudos to you. But sometimes I just want to sleeve up Hitmon Bros and go and play, no matter if I already have that badge or not. Psychic Spread is a deck I love to play too, and I've already won everything I could with that deck. So I just want to play my favorites sometime, and that's what the badge system maybe kind of forces me not to do. But it's hard because I agree with you. It does make things more fun in a sense.
So let me ask you this. So what do you think are the top 3, and what is your favorite deck to play?
Well, the top 3, I think it's obvious. I don't know if anyone can really argue with me when it comes to the top 3. I think it's Psychic, Water, and Colorless are the top 3. If I was trying to be sweaty and win a tournament today, I'm going out there and I'm taking one of those 3 decks with me. It's either going to be the traditional Psychic list. It's going to be some variant of Turbo Colorless. I'm probably playing a Dodrio because I want another evolution in there because there's some people teching out there for basics. And then the other deck, the Water deck, I'm probably just taking Rain Dance, to be honest, with the 200 HP Waylord, not the jumbo size one. I think I would just stick with the Rain Dance deck. So those are the 3 decks.
Is that colorless? You said
Psychic, Water.
Psychic Water. Which Psychic though?
Oh, Psychic. It's traditional. It's the traditional Psychic. It's Necrozma. It's Tinkaton. It's Gallade. That's the list I'm playing. Yeah, I hate that list so much. It's so bad. I would much rather play Psychic Spread or Psychic Lost Zone, but I don't think that those lists are the best choices if you're trying to win a tournament. That being said, I've never once played the optimal list to win a tournament in my life. I've played Hitmon Bros almost everywhere I go, and if it's not Hitmon Bros, it's Psychic Spread. So,
okay, you don't think Psychic Spread is one of the top contenders?
It can be. I mean, like any Psychic list can be good, and I think any given pile on any given day can play Psychic Spread pretty well. Spread oftentimes doesn't necessarily, when you're playing Spread, your opponent has to help you out a bit. One of the reasons why I like my Psychic Spread list so much is you can pivot to different things. Like I'm playing Giratina and I'm playing Gallade as kind of beat sticks in case my spread game plan doesn't work out. I'm thinking the other day, like Machoke and Fighting. Sometimes it's just like really hard to get through Machoke and Fighting. Well, send up a Gallade and smack down and you can still win those games. So if your opponent doesn't bench, or they stagger their benching, Psychic Spread can be really tough. If your opponent knows to go after certain pieces or is able to gust around kind of your mismakes, I think Psychic Spread can have issues. I just think, I don't know. There's too many factors that go into Spread being like the most competitive archetype, but it's not going to stop me from playing it.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. I think I'm actually surprised to hear you say Water, but I totally understand the reasoning behind Water being one of the top decks, and I agree with Colorless. I also agree with Psychic. I think the third one is always hard to. I think, would you say if you had to pick one, right? Before I mention my 3, if you had to pick one right now, would you pick Colorless? Would you pick Psychic or Water?
It's tough because recent results have really surprised me, since we're in the Twilight Masquerade era. This is kind of a mini segue from this to a certain degree, but Twilight Masquerade Colorless has not had great showings. I don't know if it's just because people haven't been playing it. I've not heard about people winning their local leagues with Colorless recently. I haven't heard about people doing well with it at NAIC. I think there was only one in the top 16. So is it that people aren't playing Colorless because they're trying out new things? That's kind of where I'm at with it. I do think that Colorless is still really, really strong. I think that Psychic can be teched to beat Colorless, so I tend to kind of point to maybe Psychic is one of the better decks. And then when you have Inteleon, with Water with Inteleon's just the most busted Pokemon ever printed. Shitty Dealings twice is just ridiculous. So the problem with Water being the top deck is a Wobbuffet just shuts it down. So I think based on everything I've just said, I think I got to give it to Psychic. If I had to point to one right now, give me a skilled player with Psychic over in the field any day.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think you could put it any better way. If I'm being totally honest, I really thought you were gonna say colorless. But yeah, I think I kind of have to agree with you on that one. The reason why I think I had colorless for the longest time, I think it's because we had I think we still have some PTSD from the Archeops lab era, and then it came, we have the turbo era, and now I think I don't know if it might be Phoenix, or it might be Castella, but one of them, I think, now it's making colorless with Balkner, and now it's always like there's always something with the deck that just makes it better and just makes it really strong. And I know Snorlax is just by far one of the best Pokemons in the format, so it's always really scary to see in the field. And whenever you get rid of the Snorlax, just one revive away, or just just anything, and it's right back. But I do have to agree with you that whenever I sit down against a good Psychic player, the aura always is very different. Like, you have to be ready, and there's multiple Psychic builds that are as strong, so it's always really hard to prepare. Um, to prepare for. And yeah, if you're playing against spread, and if you are playing Lost City, then yeah, I guess you might be okay. But then you play against what you said, traditional Psychic, and good luck, right? It's a very, if I'm faster than you, then you have a lot of counter cards to just keep the matchup balance, where now we're equal in prices, and we're just gonna go back and forth. And if you're not ready for it, and you don't have any recovery cards, it's game over in the long run. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
Glade, just being able to search up any supporter too, just like, going through your deck and finding some of the most broken cards, put Psychic probably just above. Colorless has to work so hard to find different cards, and one Marshadow seems pretty good too against Colorless. And honestly, like turn one Marshadow against Colorless, pretty gross.
So many supporter cards, like so many good supporter Pokemon. Like, you have Marshadow, now you have Xatu, now you have Gallade, you have the Curlia. There's just so many really good Pokemon that, unlike Water, I kind of want to say, yes, Water has a lot of really good Pokemon like that. You have your Artillery, you have your Frostmoth, you have your Blastoise, you have your Excalibur. But the problem is, these are stage 2, right? So these are stage 2s, and I don't know against your friends, but against my friends, if I get a good snipe on that Artillery or against that Frostmoth, it's tough. It's really tough for them to get the ball running. So I'm with you with colorless. I'm with you with Psychic. In our local scene, we've seen Darkness do really, really well. So we actually have Darkness as one of the really good meta decks out there, because again, we have Galarian Weezing. You have a really strong Guzzlord that takes 2 prices. So against colorless, against water, against grass, against electric, against fire, having no abilities just is really strong in the GLC format. Plus, then you have that poison. If your Pokemon gets KO, you have no Raihan, you have no teammates, so it's tough. So we have some really good, again, like you said, it all comes down to the pilot, and I completely agree with you there. And it might be that our Darkness pilots are just really good. We have some really good Darkness pilots.
Yeah,
so it might be that.
And we have some fighting in our local league too, and fighting keeps Dark at bay. And I think everything in Dark basically has fighting weakness, if I'm not mistaken. Even Crobat that's flying because of rock weakness. But yeah, so when you have fighting in your meta, Dark just can't do anything, and Liepard as the only draw engine sometimes just isn't enough. When Hitmonchan's 30 is doing 60 and KOing everything, it can be tough.
I love it. I love it. It's about time. It's about time. I'm a super fan of a fighting decks. So I'm really excited that we've seen some really good decks coming up from some really good results from fighting, right? In with this new we can actually get into the new sets if you want, because this new set is amazing for fighting.
Yeah, we had Okie Dokie came out, Ting Lu came out from Twilight Masquerade. Like, those cards are just pretty busted. Thinking off the top of my head, Jeffrey, who we had on last week, won Cardboard Warriors this week, Wednesday night tournament with a fighting deck. Last week, Mickey won. I think he won on Saturday with a similar fighting build, a Ting Lu build that had Palosan, kind of a spread fighting list. Costella has won his locals. I know you brought him up with Okie Dokie Bros. I won a 16-person tournament with it. Gibbs and the Tricky Gym Discord is winning with it. People are winning with fighting all over the place, but no top 16 at NAIC. So I'm just wondering if the international scene hasn't kind of caught up to playing fighting yet in big tournaments. But man, Twilight Masquerade, huge help to fighting.
Yeah, again, I think you're right on the money. Ting Lu I've been able to. So I've made I personally like to make decks that I haven't really seen too many people play, or like to play off cards that I enjoy to look at. I will get into that later, but right now I have a mono ground deck that I build, very similar to, it's basically Earthquake with some additions here and there. And having Ting Lu, like you said, having Palosan is just crazy. 30 is I don't know if you ever played against Water Spread. They use what's the name of this card? There's a card that has free retreat. I know Mahone likes to use it in his water build.
Is it one of the cast forms?
It is one of the cast forms, yes.
Yep.
And for 2 energies, it does 20 to everything. And I've used it, and again, it almost seems like it's not that big of a difference doing 20 damage a turn for 30, but it's just such a big difference to do 30 and then compare it to 20. Those 2 turns is just huge. So that Ting Lu, you're getting rid of that stadium and you're doing 30, and it's really bulky. It's getting crazy. And Okie Dokie helping, it's almost like a final boss. Okie Dokie is almost like a final boss, which is insane. Mm-hmm. It's just so good. It's so good. It's literally what Hitmos needed. They needed something else to carry them, because if you don't do the combo, it could get at times a little difficult. But now you have Okie Dokie, you got Ting Lu, you can add Palosan, and it's difficult. You got different strategies in one deck that really go really well together. And like you said, I'm not too. You always get surprised when fighting does well, right? Because they really don't have anything. I mean, when it comes to Pokemon support, like, you don't really. I think the closest thing that fighting has ever had is that really old Claydol that everyone wants back.
Give me the Claydol.
Yeah, exactly, and it's always a meme, right? And now with these results, with these new cards that are coming up, we really can't get that Claydol. There's no way that fighting can get something as strong as that Claydol. Not only that, but then if you look at really strong, right? You said colorless. You mentioned also psychic, which I guess can, depending on the build, can keep fighting in check. But like I said, in my opinion, darkness is one of the strongest ones. And I really think that lightning is one of those anti-meta decks where, they always come from nowhere and do really well. And you have fighting where it's hitting colorless, it's hitting darkness, it's hitting lightning. So it's hitting, like you said, 1 energy for 30 becomes 60, you got a KO. It's it's really scary to think about if they ever get any kind of Pokemon support.
Yeah, I mean we have the Garchomp Lucario combo, which is just awful. The precognitive aura Lucario. I tried it in my like initial version of Okidogi, and it was just like, nah, this is real bad. Just slot Okidogi into a list that's already good, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Like that's where Okidogi belongs. So, if fighting got Claydol, it's just the best deck, right? Like, finally, fighting is the best deck. Something's got to be the best deck. Why can't it be fighting? So I'm just saying, give us the Claydol. Mahone, free the Claydol. I know he doesn't actually have any say over that. That's the Pokemon Company, but I'm going to throw it at Mahone. Mahone, it's up to you. Free the Claydol. Last little bit about kind of where the current format is. We have, Dragon's been performing pretty well too, and we've included up here on the slide for the Dragon in the Meta. Did really well at the North American International Championship. I think there were 2 in the top 8, maybe even 3 in the top 8. What many consider to be kind of like the new stock list, but Jacloak with its reconnaissance ability, I can't remember the exact name, but it's basically just airmail. Look at the top 2, 1 on the bottom, 1 into your hand, and then the new Tatsugiri, both kind of showing out in all of those lists. So Dragon might sneakily be finding its way towards the upper tiers of the GLC podium. Who knows? Twilight Masquerade's been really good for GLC, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think I know. So back in 2023, so last year, our team went into the Florida regionals, and one of our friends from our team, his name is Javier. He actually played, I think it was Saturday of the Florida Regionals with Dragon. Again, this was last year. We don't have enough. But by last year, we didn't have what we have today, obviously, with this new set. And he said that he dominated. And I mean, he won. He got a record of, I think it was 8-1. So it was pretty ridiculous without what we have today. Dragon is one of those that I guess I don't want to say it's boring, right? But it's not flexible because you always have the same amount of dragons because we don't have that much of diversity. But it can be very, very, very strong. And I know when the new Snorlax came out, I think it's what's it called? Is it Snorlax doll or something?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these players were playing 5 dragons, which is ridiculous, right? You're only playing 5 dragons, and they were doing really well. So I'm really happy that we're getting more dragons because the gym definitely deserves it. And I hope the Pokemon Company is looking at GLC and is saying, we have all these dragons, let's make them dragons. Let's not make them, I don't know, anything else. Let's just make them dragon from basic to their finals, their final stages. So I'm happy for any gym that is sort of underrated, not really scary, because Dragon is one of those, I guess, underrated decks that secretly have always been in the top. Again, like you said, we're looking at the results and we see Dragon. Like we haven't seen Colorless, which is supposedly one of the best, but we saw 2 dragons in this last regional. So it's again, results talk. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to competitive play. You have to look at results because theory is good, but results always destroy every single argument.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that at some point we'll get more results, better results. Obviously, this is the first time that Pokemon has looked at Gym Leader Challenge and run like a kind of a big official event. All the other events have kind of been like side events at a regional or something else. But this is like, hey, Switch series, 168 people playing, deck lists needed to happen. It feels like things are looking up for Gym Leader Challenge on the official front. And again, I know you alluded to that a little bit too. And it feels like cards are maybe getting printed. to kind of help out some types that didn't need them before. This past year, if you think about all the stuff that Fire has gotten, Mela, that new Inte, Chi Yu, Dragon getting a boost, Fighting getting a boost. I think in the next set, we're going to see Darkness kind of get a boost too, kind of some of these middling decks. So things are looking up for Gym Leader Challenge. Well, that was it. We kind of talked, the meta, we talked Twilight Masquerade, and we still really haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of what we need to say today. And we're talking about kind of like badge systems and what they look like. Because, Pelet, I know you have a lot to say on this. So we talked a little bit about what the current badge system looks like. And a lot of people use what Full Grip Games does, which is you win the event, you get a sticker on a card that represents the badge of that type. And at the end of a season, I think their season is maybe a year, maybe longer, to accrue all the types. Whoever has the most types, I don't know, whatever they get, but they're the one who has the bragging rights, at least. And I know a lot of other LGSs kind of follow suit. My LGS does something a little bit different, where we give badges based off of wins per type over a season. So we do about 5 events. So if you play Fighting all 5 events and you have the best record, then you get the Fighting badge, as opposed to just doing like a one and done kind of situation. So, that's our badge system. Do you guys do something similar, Pelet?
Yeah, so for the longest time, we didn't have a badge system. We just basically had, because again, at the beginning, you just want people to show up, right? So at the beginning, and again, I think this is how it is in probably every part of the world. At the beginning, you just want people to show up, even if it's just, if you have at least 4 people, you could do round robin and you have 3 rounds and you can have fun, right? That's what you really want. I think what Full Grip Games has is obviously one of the best experience, if not the best, local experience in the States right now. They have some really good. They obviously have Mahone, which is, you can't get, doesn't get any better than that. You have Mahone, you have the creator itself from the format, but you also have a really good store. So you have really good space, and you have some really good people that are doing. I think it's Ben. I think Ben is doing like its own, right, like recap of every single day, and I love to watch those. So they really have they have a really good community. But again, it's always hard to get to that community first. So for us, we started with GLC in our local scene, and we got some really good numbers. But then when we got to the point where we had some really good numbers, the store decided, now that we have some good numbers, I think it's a good place to start doing standard. So they took that. So they actually took the GLC scene, and once the new, the new standard point system came in, that was when this is the moment. So we're gonna promote standard, and GLC kind of went down a little bit. So we started playing more online with friends, and we started thinking about what we could do to make the experience more fun. And we tried this systems, right? So what they're doing in Full Grip Games, and it's awesome. But the problem with that, and again, I'm not complaining. I don't want to sound like, what they're doing is not great. I'm just telling my experience and how it was with my friends. And maybe some other people can relate. If I could, I would do it the way they're doing it. But the problem is, first of all, the first problem is, I'm like you, Jeff. So I like certain kinds of decks or certain kinds of gym, and that's it. I wanna keep playing those, right? And I don't want to win a badge and then move into the next where I finally made this gym a champion. I finally made it so that it's good. I don't want to move into the next. And again, I know this is the way you should play Gym Leader Challenge, and it's a great system. But I think there's other ways that you could do the exact same thing and still be able to play your favorite gym. So the way we started doing it, and I think it's we've been testing it with friends and among us, is that we started doing these monotypes decks where if your deck is full of Pokemon where in the VGC they're in that same typing, you could actually get that badge. Okay, so an example would be we'll show that a little later, but if you have a deck like Earthquake where you have Steelix, where you have Donphan, where you have Doctrio, where you have Palo San, you could really, and we have done it, you could just make a deck full of ground type Pokemon, right? Now, there isn't a ground type energy, obviously, there's fighting energies, right? But in theory, what we did was if you have all ground types and you win with that deck, then you could actually get the ground badge. So what you're doing is you're unlocking basically other gyms, right? Other badges. So for grass, you could do a mono bug, right? A mono bug deck, and if you win with that, then you can get the bug type, the bug badge. Same with ghost types, same with ground types, same with ice types. Poison, but the poison type is also a big one. Even fairy, right? Because like we said, psychic is one of the strongest decks out there. You have your Tinkaton, which is an amazing card. You have your Kirlia, which is an amazing card. You have you have Mimikyu. You have some really good Pokemon that it's a matter of time until you have enough where you can make all these badges their own decks. There's already a flying bird deck that's doing decently well, and I'm sure with some little bit of support, it could actually really really strong, and you could actually get that flying badge. So what you're doing is you're sort of expanding just a little bit where that person doesn't have to buy. Yes, it's cheap because I know the Pokemon TCG is very cheap. I know that some people are gonna say, it's just cheap. You can just get another. But if you look at TCG Player right now, right? Now it's not nine. You don't pay 99 cents for shipping anymore. Now it's 150, one something.
Mm-hmm.
So floats. If you want to get a float stone, even if it's just one of the tournament ones, it's $3 a float stone. And again, yes, you could use the same supporters and just switch around. But I know a lot of people. I don't know if you're like me. I don't like to just start switching cards from deck to deck. I want to make different decks so that I could play with friends, right? I could borrow. We can lend each other's decks and borrow. So we don't want to take out. So cards are becoming a little more expensive than before. So making it, or I guess implementing this new batch system, it's a little more fun because you get to see players try to build decks that we haven't seen before, right? Because we usually get what's meta at the time, not the same, but what's meta, right? Because everyone wants to win. But you also have these newer decks that people are building to try to get that batch. So we definitely have. I've seen your video on your poison deck. Really fun deck. We have a best of one format. So we don't have a best of three. So the deck doesn't have to be super consistent. It just has to be consistent enough to win 3 rounds, maybe 4, depending on your locals, and you get a badge. So you can then come back next week, and if you're playing Dark Poison, right, assuming that all poisons now are in Dark type, you can then play the Guzzlord variant, and then now play regular Dark. So you have Dark and Poison in the same gym. So again, I don't think it's too far-fetched. It's definitely something that we can start doing now, and I think eventually in the future is something that we for sure should do because it just opens up more decks, more diversity, and people can actually win, for example, at full group games, just to give an example, with less decks. They don't have to buy 8 different decks. You can maybe have, I don't know, grass, water, and dark, for example, and then you have poison, you have ice, you have water, you have bug, you have grass, etc. And you see the same batch in different in different typings. So you could have grass poison, but you could also have, dark poison. So it's really cool where we are both playing for the same batch, but we have completely different decks, different gyms, right?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds super interesting, and it sounds like a brewer's paradise, right? Like, obviously, we talked about some of the best decks in the format, and if you were to look at each type, you'd be like, yeah, okay, there's maybe like a best deck here, maybe a best deck here, and there's a lot of different things you can kind of look at and be like, okay, that's the deck I want to play. But this just opens up so much, and if you're someone who's maybe like, GLC feels solved to me, which is an opinion I do not agree with, but I respect it. If you feel like GLC is solved, like this is a way for you to kind of like challenge yourself, challenge your deck building. I know that there are people out there that just kind of like the challenge. That's why we see so many people still playing fairy type today. Like, is fairy overly powerful? No, but people kind of view it as like a challenge. So what if you took those 10 badges that existed, right? Made it 18, and all of a sudden you get a little bit more specific. And this is kind of, people know you from this pellet, but you kind of like, started brewing a bit with this card on screen, and you kind of made an archetype that's, a grass deck, but it's more than that. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of your idea and what you did and the deck that people kind of know you by?
Yeah, of course. So when we got, like I said, when we got into the game, my favorite type of Pokemon is bug types, and of course, you immediately want to play what you love. Right? I think that's every player's dream. You want to play not only your favorite Pokemon, but your favorite type. So when I got into it, and again, I'm not, I'm not complaining, and this was just my experience. I was told that there was only one right way to play grass, which was Rillaboom, Venusaur, and that's it. Don't try moving away from that idea. You're not going to win. There's no way. Like, again, I got the same thing that you just mentioned. 2002, 2022, GLC's already been solved. We know what all the best decks are for each gym. Despite Mahone saying otherwise, right? Because Mahone, every video, he said, these are the decks that I'm showing you, but there's so much potential. And again, on the website, I'm just showing you, just a fraction of what, so that you could start, but definitely, do your own research and like to build your own decks, because there's still a lot there that we can't put everything on the website. So again, Mahone definitely said it, right? And Mahone and his team definitely said, there's still a lot out there. But again, you're a new player, you think you're late to the party. And that wasn't the case. So what we did was one thing that we like to do, my team and I, we have a group of friends of like 10, 12, 13 players, and we've been playing Pokemon for a while. And we started just wanting to play GLC without what we saw in Discord and just with our ideas. And I think that helped a lot because we thought our ideas were amazing and they were obviously trash at the beginning. We didn't know what we were getting into, but we started doing a lot of research. So we started looking at every single card from each typing. And for me, obviously, I wanted to find something that was first bug type, but that was actually decent enough to do really well. So the first thing that I said was, what do I want to play? So what are my favorite Pokemon? Beedrill is one of my favorite Pokemon. So is this card viable in some way? So basically pick, right? Like we wrote in this slide, pick your favorite Pokemon. If your Pokemon sucks, because I know there's a lot of Pokemon out there that they're just terrible. That's the reality. Or even worse, they're unplayable. You can't play them in your typing. So Scizor, for example, right? To just mention one. It's one of my favorites. You can't play it. You can play with Dream Ball and you can do other stuff, but you can't, right? You can't evolve it normally. So it's an exception. Hopefully, right? One day we'll get either a grass Scizor or a terrestrialized Scyther, so something. And we'll be able to play it. But you definitely want to pick your favorite Pokemon. And after that, right, we wanted to obviously do research, read up on every single card. The Mahone website is amazing, but there's a lot of other cards out there that are still unexplored. To this day, to this day, we still have Rilosaur, right? So we have Venusaur and Rillaboom deck. We have Elusive Feather, kinda, right? And that's about it. And that's because that's what they keep telling you. So that's what they tell new players. But there's so many other really good decks out there. Like for grass, I'm just talking about specific grass, right? Because this is the example that we're using. But you have tanky grass, you have healing grass, which sounds like it's the same thing, but it's definitely not. You have things like Scovillain, you have Elusive Feather, now you have spread. There's so much that you could do, and you could just say change two, three, four cards, and you have a brand new deck. So I really wish people just got into deck building more, because it's really easy to build a deck, but it's really hard to show that it works. And this is the hardest part, right? So I know I've been watching, the Cardboard Warriors tournaments, and I'm really happy that the team has done an amazing job on their website. I use the CBW website almost every single day. So I gotta be honest. I should not go into it every single day. I should be doing other adult stuff, but I go into it every single day. It's a good and a bad habit. But it's a great way to look at what people have created. But then you don't see them. You don't see these all these players join more tournaments and try to. I guess there a lot. I know a lot of people are scared of losing in free tournaments, which is hilarious because they're free, right? And it's okay. I totally understand, because again, I've been there. I've been scared of losing because you think you're not good enough to play, or they're gonna make fun of you or whatever. But it's a great experience and a great way to make your ideas, not only work but get results so that other people can see it. So that's what we did. We got into the idea of building something new. We basically took all the, I guess, the hate comments, or but I guess the negative ideas or perspective of what the meta was at the time, and we started building things from scratch. So then I got into, right, what I call now, and what's famously called Elusive Feather. Here in Puerto Rico, the first tournament was a 6-round tournament, best of 3, which is, obviously, I know that in North America, mentioning best of 3 in GLC is insane. Yeah, it's crazy. But here, I guess because no one was, again, the format was brand new, so no one really knew. Everyone played sort of fast building decks. So by the second or third turn, you sort of knew if you were going to lose or win. So you would scoop, and then you would continue. People play Trevenant, Wobbuffet. I'm not going to get locked in for an hour. Let's go to the next game. So it was sort of a faster pace. So I built Elusive Feather, and again, I built it with the initial idea of building a complete mono bug team. But obviously, we don't have some of the cards that we got today. So, you can't pass from, not playing Torterra, not playing Roserade, playing strong Pokemon like Jumpluff, where you're hitting, you're KOing 2 things the same turn. So, again, playing with friends. I've never been really good at Pokemon. My friends are a lot better than I am, and they would, you don't know how many times they would boss order something, and then I would get stuck there. And I was sick of getting my Pokemon stuck in the active, so I decided to make a not only bug type deck, but something that had free retreat cost. So I said, do I have enough to just make a free retreat cost deck so that I can never get stuck and I can actually play the game? And that's what we did, and it actually did really well. We actually managed to win the tournament. We went 6-0 on the tournament. We won an entire case, which I got to split with everyone in the tournament. So it was a lot of fun. But then after that, I don't want to mispronounce his name. you know who Vasco is?
Oh yeah,
Vasco.
B Savasco. Yeah.
Yeah, Visa Vasco. So Visa Vasco actually took it on another online tournament, which I believe was also 6 rounds. They did best of one until like the finals, where they also did like best of threes. And he actually also went. I don't know if he went undefeated. I believe so, but he won the tournament as well with the deck. Obviously, the deck at that time wasn't as polished as it is nowadays. But then a couple of months went into it, and you saw people winning at sub regionals. So I won a regional in the States. It also won regionals in Germany. So we got some really good feedback from all around the world, you know, saying like, hey, this deck actually, you know, does decent. And again, the idea of the deck wasn't to win all these big tournaments. It was just to play something decent enough where it got you to, you know, top 4, top 8. Just get you. If I think that if a deck gets you, like, if you play 4 rounds and it gets you 3-1, or you get like 2 and I don't know 1 tie, you know, and you're winning or tying most of your games, I think you've done it. I think that's it. You're having fun. You know, you're doing decent. You're doing well. Like, the deck doesn't have to go 4-0. It doesn't have to go 6-0 or 8-0. You know, 4-1, 3-1, you know, 2-1-1. It's good enough. So I think more people should get encouraged to participate and to build their own decks. And even today, it's still an unexplored format. We have so many decks that are still unexplored, and now more and more people are coming into light, showing us newer ways to play, you know, each deck. So after this, right, this was like the first step. We then later on decided, you know, I think we have enough to make monotypes a thing. So, and that started this year, sort of. But it's been great. The feedback from the community has been great. I get every once in a while, I get a message in Discord saying like, "Hey, Pelet, like, do you have an updated version of the deck?" And if I'm being honest, Jeff, the answer is always not really, because I've already given the platform, right? I have other responsibilities. I wish I could continue to update the deck. Again, I build it, so it's one of my favorites. But you don't know how happy I get every time that I see someone take the idea of the deck and just make something different. It might have Jump Bluff, it might have Torterra and Beedrill, but then it has something else like a ball beat, like the new ball beat, or, you know, I've seen it with top of my head right now, I've seen it with like low kicks at the beginning. I wasn't playing low kicks at first, and to see that and see other players get that original idea and make it their own and make it better, I think that's even better than showing that the deck works. Because, and I think that's how it should be, right? So for me, I'm probably not going to continue like updating the deck. I'm just going to keep, it's already out there. You know, I might update the list every once in a while, but I'm probably going to move into either other decks, right, or other ideas. And I hope that other people continue to make Elusive Feather their own. It's already out there, so just make it your own. Be creative, break it apart, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Elusive Feather, fun deck to play. I haven't played too much with it, but it's on my list to make some content for coming up here in the future. Another list that you get some credit for, at least for maybe organizing, is the Nidoking Nidoqueen deck, which I think we might be talking about here in a bit, so I won't spoil too much. But that deck was sweet too, so that's a deck I really enjoyed playing too. But let's hop into some of these monotypes and just kind of talk about them. So the first deck you shared with me beyond Elusive Feather was the ground deck, and you've alluded to it a little bit. It's the Earthquake build, and you mentioned it got some new tools with the Ting Lu that just got released. Palace Sand is obviously a force. You want to talk us through kind of what your ideas are for the ground top badge?
Yeah, of course. So these decks are still under construction, if that's, you know, a word of expression. So right now this deck I wanted to show it to you just because this is the deck that I've been playing the most for the past 2 months. So I've been having lots of fun playing this deck. Um, Again, it's still Earthquake, so it's nothing new, right? Nothing crazy. I'm sure people have seen it like 100 times. This was, I think, was one of the first decks to be ever created by Mahone. But again, details here and there. We got the reversal energy. Now you got the Ting Lu. You also have the Palo San. You have this Dog Trio, which I fell in love with the art. So I was like, this card isn't that even. It isn't that even amazing. It's not even amazing, but I'm still gonna play it. I love the art. It's one energy. It's doing 50. Against other decks, against electric, against darkness, against, colorless. You're doing 100 for one energy, and then you might get immunity. So it just becomes this one card. You can get it with level ball. So it's just having to play your favorite, right? One of your favorite cards. And again, it's not even one of my favorite Pokemon, but I fell in love with the art. I wanted to play it. You have a deck that is all ground types. So we're playing with the new badge system. We're trying to implement it in a group of friends, and this is a good example. You take a deck that it's not that it's not too crazy. Everyone has seen it. Everyone probably has played it, but you can make it into a monotype, and you can make it your own. You can just change. For me, it was that Dog Trio. That Dog Trio was basically, again, I'm not inventing the card. But I just found it. I'm playing it. I'm having fun with it, and it's getting me results. So I think that this is how it should be. And again, you are going to. It's not only about the lineup that you choose. Your items, the amount of items, your supporters, the amount of supporters, the energies, the amount of energies, and even the artwork for the energies. It makes it your own. So it's always fun to play against other people with the same deck, and then you see the different rarities and see what their taste is in different artworks. So it's always fun. It's always fun. It's a great format.
Yeah, definitely. And this definitely seems like, something that, like, if you're a brewer like you are, like something you can just have fun with, the fact that it's singleton to, you mentioned this Doug Trio, finding that card that you haven't really had space for in your optimal build or your competitive build. It finds a place here in this badge system, which is super awesome. One of the stories that I always have is Krabby is one of my favorite Pokemon. And there's one Krabby that's decent. It hit 1 energy. It does 10 everywhere. So it kind of fits into a spread build. I was always kind of a coward and never played it. And, I think I talked about this before in one of the earlier episodes, but Mickey B313, he made a Krabby spread deck that had Articuno Blindside. And I was like, dude. So I've been playing that deck nonstop. And so, choose your favorites, build around them, because it might be good. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, hey, continuing on with the monotype trend, we got fighting up here with one of my favorites. So you've got kind of the Hitmon Bros shell, which all the Hitmons are kind of fighting types. You got the new Okie Dokie in this fighting shell. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so again, so the idea of these decks, again, right, is to show the monotyping of the deck, right? So again, fighting we're sort of cheating here because we are showing fighting, right? So we already have, obviously, the batch for fighting, but you could do you could continue to do this. You could continue doing monotypings. And for me, I've always enjoyed Hitmon Bros. So I'm with you there. I've been a big fan. Funny enough, in our group, they're sort of a meme. So we have a friend. His name is Jose Reyes. He was actually he was a GLC champion back in the Florida region. So the first day, he actually beat Mahone using the Alola Meowth for the KO. Mahone was playing psychic, and he used the cat to get the win. It's pretty funny. But he actually hates Hitmon Bros. So he thinks it's the worst deck out there. He says that if you're getting the combo of your opponent is just a terrible player. But again, it's all fun and games, right? He knows that sometimes it's just inevitable, right? Or it happens. But it's sort of a meme, or it was a meme until we got this Okie dokie. Now it's not that funny anymore. This Okie dokie is insane, and now he's building it, which is hilarious. So after a couple of years, after 2 years, now he's actually saying, you know what, I might actually be getting into the Okie dokie train, and he's been enjoying it. And again, this is a good example of I've always played Hitmo Bros. Okie dokie is an amazing card. One of my favorite, so top 6 Pokemon is Phalanx, and Phalanx is just a terrible card. So Phalanx is just terrible. Almost every single Phalanx says, it does a lot of damage if there's multiple Phalanx in field. Obviously, this is GLC, so that Phalanx that we have there, I wasn't able to show it, but you guys can look it up. It's actually terrible. I think it does like maybe 30 for 1 energy, but then if your opponent has 1 prize for 3 energies, I think it's doing like 160 plus or something. So pretty cool. But again, it's one of those ideas where you can splash your favorite Pokemon in really good decks, and it could, it's always that spiciness into your build that makes it your own, makes it fun, and can make it really competitive because your opponent is not, it doesn't expect it, and it's a best of 1 format. So I keep going back into the best of 1 format. I didn't like best of 1 formats because we were obviously playing best of 3. But now that I understand more the formats, I'm actually best of 1, and I think my whole team is also best of 1. We're all in the best of 1 boat. Because again, you could play fairy, like you said, or you could play your favorite decks, and maybe you just had luck, or you build it strong enough to win those 3 games, and you were able to win with your favorite deck. So I think it can be really competitive in a very, very fun way, and I think this is one of the formats that has been able to do that the best. So I really hope that the format keeps growing into and keeps evolving, right? Because all these ideas that I'm giving are not even, they're not all my own. It's I'm mentioning them, but they've come from other people in Discord and talking with friends and talking with other competitive players, and it's just a mixture of ideas that I've taken the best of them, and now Jeff has given me the opportunity to talk about them. So yeah. And again, I appreciate that.
Oh, hey, we're glad to have you. And like you mentioned, best of 1. It's fun because your spicy tech could decide a game. So your Phalanx here, which sounds a little bit like a worse Crisis Punch when you think about it, which Crisis Punch sees a lot of play, or at least some play here and there. So your Phalanx isn't such a bad card. And again, your opponent isn't expecting it. You go counter energy Raihan onto your Phalanx, hit for 160 to win you the game. You're going to feel better about it, especially if it's one of your favorites. Ooh, the one that people are probably most excited about now, and I'm going to say this week, 2 people DM me on Discord, which I don't normally answer. So if you're going to try to send me messages on Discord, everyone, I don't answer them, I promise. But 2 people sent me Birds List this week. So colorless birds is a thing that people love. Obviously, there are birds in all different types. It's also kind of funny. It's one of the rare instances where typically the type is weak to something. Well, in this case, it actually has resistance to it. So it's kind of funny that this can kind of come out there and stop those fighting decks from beating up on colorless a bit. But this is colorless birds. So walk us through it. What you got?
So I'm going to be totally honest. I actually have I actually have no idea on what the deck actually does. But again, I'm with you. A lot of people have shown me this. And everyone is super excited on it. A lot of the artwork on many of these cards is just amazing. And again, it's one of those monotypes that people are excited to play outside of regular Turbolax, and multiple people have built multiple bird lists. So it's not even the fact that we have this list only, but we have other bird lists with different Pokemon, which is hilarious. So I think this just shows that there's still a lot of potential to build your favorite Pokemon, your favorite decks, and just make it your own. Do you actually know a little bit about this deck? Because I don't.
Oh yeah, so I actually know a lot because again, people have been messaging me about it. So first off, let's talk. It actually got second place. I don't know if it was this particular list, but a list of just birds got second place at a Cardboard Warriors event. So it can win. I think it top forward Full Grip Games too. I know the name of the person in the Tricky Gym Discord is BLT, and he's been putting up his birds list, for people to see everywhere. Pan Unbroken also sent me a sweet list. He's one of the guys I'll mention here. So basically the deck is like Archeops is your engine. People will also play Porygon Z because there's a lot of debate whether or not Porygon Z is actually a bird or not, but he's just a digital duck, right? Like we can all agree that Porygon is a digital duck.
Totally I'm on that boat.
Yeah, so you can play either, and they're both great energy accelerants. In fact, they're the best energy accelerants that Colorless has, which is one of the reasons why the birds are such an interesting build. And then you've got just good draw engines. The Dodrio you got up here, draw 1, put a damage counter on it, does 30 more damage for each damage counter. It's a great attacker. You've got Pidgeotto as your support. And then there's my favorite card in these lists is actually the Swanna, who for 3 energy does 70, and it does 70 more if you discard a card. But if you've played Birdkeeper, which is just such a flavor card, like so on flavor, if you played Birdkeeper that turn, it attacks for free. So you just have to discard the card, and you're doing 140 with your stage 1. So there's some other kind of cute things that these decks can do. There's a Toucannon who someone sent me. I'm going to butcher the name, but it's like Haruhi is the name that he sent me. But it's a stage 2, and for 3 energy, it does 160. But you put the energy back into your hand, so you can actually just loop triple acceleration energy because you don't have to discard it. It comes back to your hand from the attack. So it's actually pretty cute. There's just tons of good birds. Pelipper here is also another one. You've got all these shiny birds, but Pelipper gets you a supporter back from either your discard pile or you can go into your deck and get one. So there's a lot of support in birds. And it's just like you mentioned, you can build it so many different ways. And all of these cards, like there's the Tornadus, which works well with the Flyninium Z tool, where you can like gain immunity after 180 attack. There's all these like kind of cute, cool things you can do, but are actually quite competitive when you think about it. The Talonflame here that you can just start if it's in your opening hand for 1 energy, goes and finds you any 2 cards from your deck. I'm like, these birds are busted. Monotype is a thing.
Yeah, again, anything that has Archeops just gives me immediate PTSD. But again, to see such a broken card in a way in such a cool deck, you really can't get mad, right? Like if you see someone playing all birds and they play Archeops, you just take it, man. Like it doesn't get any cooler than that. I don't think right now I don't think there's a cooler deck than birds. Yeah. In my opinion, I think anyone that plays this deck, you're a boss. I'm definitely going to build this deck eventually when I have the money to. The fact that most of them are shiny I love that. So the artwork is beautiful in most of these cards. So, and again, it's competitive enough to actually win tournaments. So it's not like we're just having fun. I know there's a lot of players out there that they really want to get into the competitive aspect and do really well and win cases and win prizes and stuff. And I am 100% sure, or I guess you can never be 100% sure, 99.99% sure that these decks have potential to win.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right. Hey, well, Bug Deck, you talked Elusive Feather previously, and Elusive Feather had some cards that weren't all bugs. We're thinking the Hoppit line, there was the Torterra line, I think you have Roselia Roserade. But you mentioned, as we're getting new printings for cards, these monotype strategies become a lot more viable, a lot stronger, and capable of wins. Talk us through kind of this new version of what you're calling Elusive Infection.
Yeah, so this is one of the decks that was given to me by some people at the Discord. Right now, I don't remember his name because it was right after the new Galvantula came out, and Galvantula is not even in his list, but it came up in conversation. And again, it's one of those builds where I recognize most of the cards because I've played them at one time or another. But it's their own build, right? And they sort of like change the name to make it their own while still giving credit to the original list, which I always really, it's not needed, but it's always, obviously I'm always gonna have a smile on my face when I see that, when people do that. Um, and again, I could definitely see how, again, Elusive Feather is a glass cannon deck. So it's one of those decks that, you go all in. And if it doesn't work, well, that's just a deck. But it's already seen enough, it already has enough results where doing that, I'm gonna give all in works. So, like you mentioned, there's new cards coming up every single set. It's always really excited, obviously, for us players to see about these new cards. For the longest time, we didn't have a Joltik, we didn't have a Grass Joltik. So having not only a new, a Joltik for Grass, they also give us another Galvantula, which is the Galvantula that is both electric and grass, is dual typing. Now we can actually play that, and it's a really good Galvantula that does spread, and it counts for weakness. So you could do 60 to every single Pokemon in your against water, for example, or against birds. I guess if you're playing against birds. So it's pretty cool that newer cards are also giving us older tools, right? Older cards. But then they're also giving us some really newer cards that are really strong for these monotypes that we're sort of building, right? I think this Galvantula is insane. This is the Japanese version, but I think if this Galvantula has an electric energy, it does tons of damage, which is really cool because then in the elusive feather list, a lot of the Pokemon can hit with colorless energy. So you have your new what's it called Illumise
Volbeat.
uh, and Volbeat. Yeah, they can attack on your going first, going second, so it gives you that consistency. And it is for a colorless energy, so you can attach an electric energy, so it has synergy. So it's not only that you're just, well, these are the book types that I have, I'm just gonna put them all together and I hope it works. No, they actually have decent, synergy, so that they do really, really well. And again, I think this is gonna be something that whether we want it or not, I think it's bound to happen. It might be when my kid is 15 and he's only 3 months right now, but I think it's bound to happen. I hope the GLC community lasts for many, many years, but I think it's gonna happen. Eventually, we're gonna have enough cards for these monotypes. It's gonna be a thing. I think more and more people are going to want the diversity in badges because it's just gonna make this experience a little more fun, which is the number one priority, but also a little more competitive and diverse.
100%. Yeah, and this deck looks sweet. The fact that the name is Elusive Infection alone makes me want to try it out. Well, there are some types out there that are close, Pellet, and you mentioned them here. They're close to the monotype, so these might be some brews that our listeners might be thinking about doing in the future, but something to keep in the back of your mind. So first off, you've got all grass cards on the screen, but these are dark types. What's up with these?
Right. So obviously so at the beginning, right, when we wanted to make this new batch system work, we noticed that obviously we don't have not every single new batch is going to have the right cards to make a deck out of it. But there is still a lot of decks that are very close to making that happen. So I wanted to just show that these aren't the only, I don't think these are the only 4 grass dark types out there. I think there might be 1 or 2 more. I could be mistaken. But I'm just showing you 4 where these 4, for example, I'm showing you this shift tree, but there's multiple shift trees, right? There's multiple characters. There's multiple. I think this might be the only logics, but you have these cards where it's not only this card that you're seeing in the screen. You have multiples of these cards. So I know there's a shift 3 that for 1 energy. I think it's the Lost Zone one. 1 energy does 210 and then it gets banished. So that's insane amount of damage for only 1 energy. So you can actually build a very aggressive dark grass build where you have low kicks hitting for 1 energy, a bunch of damage. You have your Mills Karada doing 130 for 1 grass and 1 colorless. If you're playing Venusaur, that's 1 energy. 1 Raihan away from doing 130, 150 with Muscle Band, which is crazy. That character, I think, it also does 130 if it has a dark energy, which is now we've seen it with Okidogi and other cards where these rainbow energies and all these like reversal energies. It's becoming a common thing. So these cards, you can keep them in the back of your mind. And just like these, right? I'm showing you Grass Dark, and I'm also gonna show. I think we have like other similar like examples of gyms that might be close to it. Um, and are still not ready, but I think eventually it will. Plus, we're getting new Pokemon every 2 years, so new Pokemon, new typings, new cards. So it's just a matter of time.
Oh yeah. So Dark was one. Flying in Dark is really close, which solves a little bit of the issue that we talked about where Dark does just kind of fold to fighting. And so if you have some flyers, you're getting that fighting resistance. Talk us through these.
Exactly, yeah. So this, I know this Moltres, I'm pretty sure this Moltres, it might be one of, I know there's one of the Moltres. I don't know if this is the one where I think you play it and then I think you can attach 3 energies from your discard. Is it this one? Yeah. So you already seeing these cards that they're not underrated. They're actually very competitive. There's a bunch of Yveltals. I'm pretty sure there's an Yveltal that has free retreat that people use more than this one. This is just, I think, the newer one. This Honchkrow, my friend Jose Reyes was using it on our local scene because he kept losing to fighting types. And he's a dark gym player. So he was getting really mad that he was losing to weakness. So he actually used this Honchkrow, and I actually did really, really well. So again, one of those little like spicy techs that you could bring to your local scene and do well. But again, these are cards and just examples of how close, for example, Dark is to playing a flying gem. So you could play your normal Dark deck where you have your supporters that you enjoy, your items that you enjoy, your Dark Patch, your new supporters that are coming up that are going to be really good for Dark. And then you can bring a new typing into your own gym. So you can bring that flying, you can bring that poison type that we for sure already have. You have already Dark. Depending on the decks, you can bring ground. So you have this one deck that is giving you different badges, right? So that's the whole idea of what we want to do. And if Dragon is already doing that with 5 Pokemon, then I'm sure someone's gonna be crazy enough to play an entire deck with 5 Pokemon. And at this point, the way that we're doing it is that we're counting lineups. So we're only counting. So in this example, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4. We will only have 4 Pokemon, but we could eventually do it where you're counting every single Pokemon, right? So you're counting Moltres plus the Honchkrow entire evolution lineup and the Mandibus entire evolution lineup, and you have more Pokemon to to count as part of the gym. There's also, we were talking about maybe like doing like a percentage where if your deck is like 90%, 90% a certain typing, you can count it as that badge, right? And I feel like that could bring other problems where you have an entire bird deck and then you have a Snorlax or something like crazy like that, where it sort of like defeats the fun aspect of it. But maybe it could be also it could just to test that out, just test the waters. You could start doing it that way. But I think doing a monotype is just really cool because you get to do all flying, and you actually feel like you deserve that badge when you win. Because, like, again, you're not playing Guzzlord, you're not playing, Lipard, you're not playing Experience Dumb, you're not playing, all these amazing cards that Dark have. But again, you still have. I just put these 4 out there because these were the first ones that I found. But you could say, for example, like Pelet, you don't have any drawing power, but you do. You could play the Crobat lineup, right? Where you evolve into a Golbat and draw, what is it, 2? You play Crobat and you draw 3. So and it is a flying type. So you have there's gonna be continued. There's gonna continue the game is going to continue to create newer cards where eventually, like I said, and I keep mentioning, we're going to get to this point where monotyping is going to be a thing, and I think that's going to be huge for GLC.
Yeah. It is worth noting, even though Zubat, Golbat, and Crobat are flying types, they're weak to fighting. Oh, it makes me so frustrated.
Yeah, are they? Are they weak to fighting?
I know. It's like the only flying Pokemon that I know of. Obviously, I mean, flying Pokemon are weak to rock, all right, in the VGC. So it makes sense from a logistics standpoint, but I think that they're the only flying Pokemon in the entire TCG that I know of. If you're listening at home and you know better, respond below with those cards. But yeah, they're weak to fighting. It makes me so mad.
Wait, are they really?
Yeah, they are.
I think I have them right here. They are weak to fighting.
I know.
Get out of here.
I know. It's because
I wanted
to make Triple Prize Crobat work so hard, and then he just gets punched.
I have them right here. They are weak to, I don't know if you can see the glare, but they are weak to. You're right. That sucks. That's hilarious. I love that.
Well, we got, I think, one more to kind of talk to that's pretty close. Ice. And so you've got Articuno, Frosmoth, the Weavile, and Baxcalibur, which Baxcalibur maybe we'll get a dragon printing because it's one of those weird, ice dragon sort of deals. Besides these 4 that you mentioned on screen, there's the Titan that we got earlier on too. So there's so many ice Pokemon. Ice is close, right?
Definitely close. I wouldn't be surprised if it was already ready for it to be a monotype because, again, I haven't spent time in every single gym trying to make a monotype out of everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's already like an ice monotype out there, and I hope someone makes it and be really cool to play.
Yeah, and this Articuno is pretty boss. Like the Articuno that gets 2 prizes if it takes a KO, and I'm sure that like it by itself could probably be a way to win GLC games. Just use the Articuno, recycle it, take 2 prizes with it every other time. I'm sure is Cloyster Ice. I can never remember if Cloyster's Ice.
It is. I think it is water ice.
Yeah, so it spreads damage. Then you just Articuno blindside. Like problem solved. Like and there's probably something out there.
Yeah, Lapras is also water ice, I believe.
Oh, yeah, there's one that does 100 to the bench. There's the Hydro Pump one. Yeah, Ice is ready.
Ice is ready.
Ice is ready. The fact that it has 2 Rain Dancers that people already play, like people already play Baxcalibur and Frosmoth, just pair those 2 with anything else and you'll be fine.
It's ready.
Well, Pellet, dude, thanks so much for talking monotypes with me today. Obviously, we started talking about the meta, but we ended on like really fascinating kind of new way to experience Gym Leader Challenge. Obviously, the way it is right now is still super fun and super great, but incorporating like new badges, monotypes, something I think I might have to try out myself.
Yeah, definitely. Try it with your friends. I've always enjoyed your videos, and I'm excited to see what happens to the format. And I'm happy that we have such a great GLC team working behind the scenes, and I know my home team works really hard on making content and trying to keep up to date with the newer cards and giving us really good content, plus what he's doing in his store. So I'm not worried on what's going to happen with the future of the game, but for sure I'm very happy to be part of the community because it's just a great game. It's just a fun, no stress, competitive, but more fun than competitive kind of game. And again, thank you so much for having me in your channel and talk about all these amazing ideas and your ideas on the meta and everything. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, same, dude. It's been great. Been an honor to have you on. But let's throw out some shout outs then to finish things out. So first off, give a shout out to your team, Team Moo Moo Milk. Think we can find them on YouTube. I know that there's a YouTube channel where you can find things like the elusive feather deck tech and other things. Is there another place where we can find Moo Moo Milk besides YouTube?
Yeah. So we're on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. We wanted to make YouTube videos on decks that were doing really, really well, but then I think we're moving towards if it's original and it's fun, we're gonna start doing deck profiles on it. We're gonna try to do other other deck profiles for people to see, because I know the Discord has an amazing gallery. I love the Discord gallery that they've done. It very organized, but sometimes it's just fun to watch someone break apart their deck, explain why they chose certain things, and look at the comments and just see what other people picked and why they picked it, and just ask questions. And so it's really fun. We're going to try to start just putting decks out there for people to see, even if it's not our own original ideas, just for people to have as a sort of gallery as we build more and more decks, so that people can net deck or make their own.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so shout out to the team. They've been, again, I'm probably one of the worst players in my team. So every single one of them has been amazing. They've kicked my butt many times, and every time I get my butt kicked, they tell me to change, one supporter or one card, which can be the difference between going 3-1 or 3-0 and just losing. So definitely shout outs to them. They've been great help, and they're a great team.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see more content from you guys, because again, the elusive feather video is pretty sweet. You guys did one on Yoshi Tracker's grass list, which is kind of like my first introduction to grass earlier on. So I'm excited to see more Gym Leader Challenge content. And like you mentioned, things just get buried in a Discord. I know that the Discords, like the Tricky Gym and the Cardboard Warriors Discords, there's other Discords out there too. We have our own Discord, all about that beige, by the way. But the conversation just gets buried. No one wants to search for a deck list or something like that. Like, my first instinct is go to YouTube, find a deck list. So the more Gym Leader Challenge content on YouTube, the better. And I will definitely be tuning in to Moo Moo Milk and your team, dude. I'm excited for that. Shout out to me. Hey, if you guys are looking to support the podcast and the stream and all that stuff, I got a Patreon now. We send out sweet let loose promos now. Let loose promos if you guys are looking for them. If you're part of my Patreon, signed cards from me. I know I'm not super popular, but I'll sign something and send it to you. And we got, some articles that I'm writing are up there at least once a month. Right now, we've got one about how Arvin is the best supporter in Gym Leader Challenge. I think I'm going to write one coming up here about maybe quality of life changes that we should think about in Gym Leader Challenge. So if you want to be part of that, join my Patreon. Yeah, cool. And the last thing we'll shout out here before we end all things is, hey, there's a tournament coming up. A pretty big tournament as far as online Gym Leader Challenge goes. It's the Cardboard Warriors Summer Championship. So again, that's July 13th. $100 prize pool goes to the top 4. It's sponsored by Heavily Played, who, let me go ahead and I got my shirt on, Heavily Played, which is a TCG player competitor that will be coming out, run by everyone in the CBDW Discord. That's what this tournament is. Pretty sweet. Are you planning on playing Pelet in the tournament? Probably not, right? I don't see you much in the webcam scene.
Yeah, so I really want to, but the problem is right now I'm in the hospital, so I'm a doctor and here in Puerto Rico, so my hours are just insane. And when I do have a little time to play, either I'm playing with friends or I'm spending time with my son and my family. So, but eventually I know I'm going to try to make space to play in one of these big tournaments. And I know sometimes there's always an excuse to not play, because there's always time. So I just gotta make time, but I really want to.
I feel you on that one. Well, hey, since I got you here and since we just talked the meta predictions, what do you think is going to take it down?
Predictions for
the tournament, for the one coming up. Do you think?
Yeah.
What
are they doing? Are they doing best of one? They're doing best of one, right?
It's best of one. It's 5 round Swiss, best of one, and a cup to top 4. And then top 4 is best of 3. Jeffrey won it last time. He won the spring championship. He was piloting Porygon Z Crazy Code Colorless.
Nice.
I think if I were a betting man, I would bet on Jeffrey again. Whatever deck Jeffrey's playing is what I'll say.
Jeffrey's such a good player. Wow. So you said last time colorless won, right?
Oh yeah, colorless was first and second, and the second place colorless list only lost to Jeffrey's colorless deck twice.
It's a tough one. I still. Let's see.
And it doesn't even have to be winning, Pellet. You could just tell me what's a deck that maybe you would be not shocked to see in the top 4.
Well, definitely fighting type. I think this is the time where I think a lot of people are gonna bring their. I think enough people had enough practice where now they're feeling comfortable enough to like bring the new fighting decks into the tournament. So I definitely should. I definitely want to see. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw fighting in the top cut because of the last tournament the last tournament results. Definitely Dragon. I feel like Dragon with the new results, more people are gonna be playing Dragon. But again, I'm super biased. I want to see grass out there. I want to see. It doesn't have to be elusive feather. It could just be Rillasaur or a coin flip deck or whatever. I really want grass to do really well. But if I'm being totally honest, I'm a huge fan of fighting as well. So those are my 2 favorites. So if grass isn't gonna be there, I really hope that we get either Earthquake or Himbo Bros. Definitely or again. Any of the I'm a sucker for underdogs. So if we see a fairy deck or we see fire, I'm gonna be rooting for those guys. So I hope a lot of people join. And again, it's free to join, right? So
yeah, it's free to join, and then just $100 payout. So like
awesome, yeah. So
only positive if you join in and play. And at the end of the day, you might get beat by Jeffrey, but that in and of itself is kind of like a masterclass for free. So
yeah, exactly. So are they going to do commentate? Do you know if they're going to be doing commentate?
I think Weeder will try this time. I can't ever do anything on the weekends because, like you, I have a son too, and my wife works Saturday, Sunday at the hospital. So it's just me and my son on the weekend. So weekends are really tough. So I'll be probably tuning in during his nap time to check out what people are doing, but I will not be involved. But Weeder should be doing some tournament coverage, I'm sure, and I'm sure it will be great.
Yeah, shout outs to him. I know he's done. I think he has more than 1 kid, right? He has like 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah, I'm not even sure at this point. I lost count.
But I know he's a dad, so I know, and he's done crazy amounts of work for the community. So shout outs to you, dude. Like, amazing job. Keep up the good work. I have no words except gratitude. Great job. Keep up the good work for him and his team, because I'm sure he's not alone. He has a great team behind him, so keep up the good work.
Awesome. Yep. Shout out to Weeder. Well, hey, that's it. Let's call it a night. Well, again, thank you, Pellet, for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure talking Gym Leader Challenge and mono type decks with you tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. So I hope the channel keeps growing, and thanks a lot for what you've been doing. All your episodes have been lots and lots of fun. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. Yeah, at least 3 out of 10 is what I would say. But yeah, hey, thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll be back actually tomorrow night, where we talk with the winner of the NAIC Switch series. So a quicker than usual episode. But thank you all for hanging out with us and watching another episode of Let Loose, the podcast dedicated to all things Gym Leader Challenge and the Pokemon TCG. Have a good night.